I got a call this morning from an employee who noticed that their hourly rate was lower than a coworker that had just been hired a month before. And so she had a question as to whether that was lawful. That you have a long-term employee making less than a current employee. Now, can an employee be paid less or more than a coworker? Yeah. You know, if an employer makes a decision to pay an employee a different rate, the employee or the employer always has theoretically that right. They just can't do it for an unlawful reason. And so in California, the laws are very clear that you can't pay a different race or a different gender or a different classification of people a different rate because of that characteristic. And so we talked about the fact that as a woman, she felt that she was being paid a rate different than her new male counterpart. And in fact, under California law, they've recently passed the Equal Pay Act here in California, which protects specifically women from being paid less than men in comparable positions. It's always interesting when an employer makes a decision to pay new employees more than loyal employees that have been there for years. You know, unfortunately, in the United States, we have a history that's not always a history that we can be proud of, and it's not always a history that's intentional. Sometimes employees are paid less just because that they agreed to less and they negotiated a rate that was less. And that's really all it is. Other times, it's intentional discrimination. That's just what we do. We just pay men more, or we just pay whites more. Or my boss is Hispanic and he just pays the Hispanics more. Whatever the case might be, sometimes that decision to pay more is intentional. That the boss makes a calculated decision to pay one group of people less than another group of people. And sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it's unintentional. That they make decisions that aren't intentionally set out to treat people differently, but ultimately do. In California, both intentional and sometimes unintentional discrimination when it comes to pay is both unlawful. If you feel that you're being discriminated against because of an unlawful reason, because of who you are, or because in the past you've complained about certain behavior and as a result they're penalizing you by paying you less than your coworkers, it's important for you to understand that you may have rights and that it's important for you to timely address those rights, because every day that goes by is another argument for the employer to argue that their conduct is lawful. If you have questions regarding whether or not you have rights under California law as a result of being paid less than a coworker, it's important for you to talk to a law firm. If that's our firm, great, give us a call. I'm happy to discuss any issues that you have regarding employment issues here in California. Thanks.